We're here by the Elgin Terminal, and the Elgin Branch consisted of 16.5 miles of railway and included 16 stops, including the Elgin Terminal as well as the Wheaton Terminal. Of the 16.5 miles, all but a third of a mile is still accessible today. So only 2% has been deprecated since 1957. Including the 16 stops, there were 7 sidings, there were 9 bridges, there were 4 underpasses, and 4 power substations that provided power along this branch of the railway. 2 of the stations are still accessible today, that being at Prince Crossing and at Clintonville. And 2 of the station facilities can still be seen at the Fox River Trolley Museum, and we'll talk about those when we get to those stops. So the Elgin Terminal was right here at the corner of Chicago Street and Riverside Drive in Elgin at 3 Chicago Avenue. They had a storefront whereby you could buy tickets, and you'd come out the back right about here, and this is where you do street boarding in this general location. And as you can see, there's nothing left but a parking lot today. The station was established in 1902 and went until the shutdown of the railway in 1957. In 1920, on March 28th, there was a terrible tornado that killed dozens of people in the area and destroyed many buildings, including the building that housed the terminal, which was shared with an opera house theater. That building was later rebuilt, and so the terminal kept in operation. The power would have been supplied here right along this location with overhead trolley wires. And this would have been a single trackway. And a single trackway means that trains going in both directions had to share the same trackway. And that meant that sidings were very important, such that trains could be pulled over so that trains going in opposite directions could bypass each other safely. There was a power substation nearby, about a block or 2 in that direction, and midway between this station and the next station down on the line, which is National Street, which is where we're heading right now. So we've arrived at the National Street Station. It is also known as the Watch Factory because it served primarily the Elgin factory, which stood on the southeast corner of, this is Times Square Road and National Street. The eastbound platform would have been right in this location right here, probably a wooden platform. It would have had a low sloping roof. And as I mentioned, this would have served the Elgin factory, which was over in this location, which was torn down in 1965, 1966. It was a huge factory employing thousands of workers. This was the eastbound platform. Now the westbound platform was over on that side of the street. On the other side of the street, where I'm pointing. And again, that would have been a small wood structure with a low sloping roof that would have been for traffic heading northbound or west, as the case may be. So this is still a single trackway, would have been a single trackway. From this point onwards, the path will be powered by the third rail rather than overhead trolley wires. So onward to the next station, which is Collingbourne. So we've just come about a mile from National Street, and we went under the underpass for the CA&E Railway, and we've arrived at the Collingbourne Station. Now, the Collingbourne Station was located somewhere right about here, and this would have had a long cinder platform, probably situated close to where the telephone pole is right now. The path has been shifted to the east somewhat, and it would have come a little bit, perhaps 15 feet east of there, and the station would have been located there, therefore right about over there. The Collingbourne Station was named after the Collingbourne Mills, which was a plant that was located approximately 700 feet or so right over there by the intersection of Raymond and Bluff City Boulevard, I believe, and which was in operation early in the 20th century. And so that particular plant lent its name to the stop where some of the employees would have naturally gotten on, gotten off on their commute to work. This still would have been a single trackway, of course, and it would have been using a third rail for its power. So next stop is at Hollywood or Renwick, which is just down the road. So we've reached the next stop, which is called Renwick or Hollywood or even Bosworth, and it's at the intersection of the trackway with Raymond Street in South Elgin. And the actual station stop would have been located right over here in this clump of trees. The trailway would have been straight, but they've put a crook in it to cross over the road here. So the station would have been about right in that location where I'm pointing there. And you can still see there's a signal base located right across, directly across from it. This station was a flag stop, a halt, and it was initiated in 1902 and was closed in 1957. The actual name of Renwick comes from an executive from the Chicago Gravel Company, which had a siding close by here and employed some of the folks in the area, so hence the name. The name Hollywood is not from the famous LA suburb, but rather from a local subdivision that was started in the 1920s, also just south of this station. On the east side of the tracks, there are multiple sidings. As I mentioned, there was one for a gravel company, one for a McGraw Electric. There was also an interchange with another railway. So there were multiple sidings to the south and to the east of the Renwick station. There was also a crossing signal at this particular intersection with the road, and these diagonal crossings tended to be particularly nasty with regards to accidents and so on. So onwards to the next station, which is Clintonville. At the Clintonville Station behind me, and this is one of the finest examples of an extant station that we have at the Chicago, Aurora and Elgin Railway. It's a brick structure that's still in good repair. It was a flag stop established in 1902, went out of use in 1957 with the shutdown of the railway. Since then, the building is now occupied by the Valley Model Railroad Association. They still have regular meetings in this building, and it's still being used today. This building was also a power substation, and as I mentioned in the intro, the railway was powered by 600 volts direct current. Direct current, though, is not easily shipped along long distances. The power for the entire railway came from a plant in Batavia called Glenwood Park. It was shipped via alternating current to substations like this one, which converted it to direct current and supplied the current to the third rail, or the trolley wires as the case may be, but usually the third rail on the railway. And that power on the third rail gave the motors, the electric motors on the engines, the power that they needed to pull the trains. Now, a few other factoids related to this site. There was a signal crossing over this road. There was some accidents over the years, so a signal crossing was put in. The Clintonville Station was named after early settler James Clinton. Clintonville was named for that early settler James Clinton. It was Clintonville later became South Elgin in 1907. But when this railway was established in 1902, this area was referred to as Clintonville, and hence the name of the station, and that name pretty much stuck. So onwards to the next station, which should be at St. Charles Road. So we've just traveled the 2.2 miles from the Clintonville Station to the St. Charles Road Station, which is right along the path right about here. And it's just south of where Dunham Road intersects with the Prairie path, right up there. It's at a rather oblique angle, and so they've rerouted the path to go along Dunham Road and then there's an underpass, as you saw, and that takes you into the Fox River Trail, which is what we just came off. And we've also made the transition from Kane County into DuPage County, Illinois, right at this juncture over here. So as I mentioned, this is the St. Charles Road Station. There's not much to be seen here. It was a rather lonely spot. It was a flag stop, which meant that you had to pull a flag to indicate that you wanted the train to stop, otherwise the train would just keep going. This station was established in 1902 and closed down in 1957 with the closure of the railway. Okay, we've just ridden the almost 2 miles from St. Charles Station to the Wayne Station. in the heart of lovely Wayne, Illinois. And the station itself was located just about where the park bench, the water pump, the non-functioning water pump, and the latrine is located. So in this general area was a wood frame structure about 8 by 8 feet in size with a gabled roof. And that station was actually preserved and was moved to the Fox Valley Trolley Museum. This was a flag stop, like most of the stops along this trackway. And there would have been a long cinder platform that would have been here for boarding and unboarding this train. But just over Army Trail Road here, which is the roadway that is coming up at a bit of an angle. If you just go east a few hundred feet, there was an electrical substation for the line located over there. It's still an electrical substation today, operated by Commonwealth Edison, but it's no longer the same facilities. One of the things that's interesting is how the electric utility has subsumed some of the facilities of the Chicago, Aurora and Elgin Railway. On the other side of the road, and we can explore that briefly, is there's an interchange with another railway. So there was a siding that goes down the hill to another railway. It'll be just to our left on the east side of the trackway, and it's still in existence today, and the railway still exists down below. Oh, unless I forget, the town of Wayne was named after Revolutionary War hero Anthony Wayne, and wasn't incorporated until 1958, and the station was named after the town. just come the 1.4 miles from Wayne to the Smith Road Station. And the Smith Road Station was located right here by this clump of trees. Now, Smith Road was named for local farmer Henry and Jenny Smith, who their property encompassed where the station stop was located. Often the stop was named for the farmer that donated the land where they could install the right-of-way as well as the station. This would have been a flag stop. A small wooden structure, perhaps 6x6 with a gable roof and a long cinder platform right along in here. And it was established in 1902 and was shut down in 1957 with the closure of the railway. And little is evident of the station today. This area used to be open farmland and has been built up heavily over the past 20-30 years or so. There was a very large siding just to the north of Smith Station and to the west of the trackway. So in this area here there was a very large siding. I think it would have accommodated many tens of cars, and it's along where the electric utility has their right-of-way today, coinciding with the overall Prairie path. And of course we're still powered by the third rail. So the next stop along our trip here is to St. Andrews. So we've just arrived at St. Andrews Station, or what was St. Andrews Station, right along Route 59 in Illinois, where the trackway, the Prairie path, intercepts, or the intersection of the trackway with Route 59. And the station would have been located in the southeast corner of that intersection, right about over here where that large rock is, although I don't think that large rock was intentionally marking the station. Unfortunately, the place where the station was located is under tons of landfill when they created this overpass. The actual station would have been a small wooden frame structure, likely with a long cinder platform that would have extended along this. Now, it was called St. Andrews because it primarily served the St. Andrews Golf Course. This station was created around 1927 and went out of business in 1957 when the railroad closed. It would have been a flag stop if I didn't mention that. And St. Andrews, that name came from Frank Howe started a golf course just north of this intersection called St. Andrews today. But it was a 36-hole golf course, and I believe the second 18 was called St. Andrews. I've forgotten what the first 18 was called. So let's return to the trail. Okay, it's just a short distance from St. Andrews Station to Lakewood Station in West Chicago. And one of the hallmarks is that there's an underpass right here under North Avenue, which is why it's quite loud here. But this used to be a full stop, a very nice station. This was a full stop and would have been located right along here, right along the west edge of the trackway. And the actual stop station was a large frame building, perhaps 20 feet by 10 feet in size, with a long platform. And the platform extended all along here. And the station was about right where you see that bump in the road, bump in the trackway. And how do we know that? It's based on the aerial photographs as well as period photographs. It was roughly 300 feet, the actual station building was roughly 300 feet from the edge of North Avenue there, all along here. There was also a siding on the north side of the trackway, which would have been right along here. Now, as to the name Lakewood and Fessler Road. Its original name was Fessler Road after Jacob and Minnie Fessler, who were local farmers here. And again, I believe they donated their property for the right-of-way as well as the stop. And Lakewood came into being. This station was originated around 1927. And the name Lakewood came into being because Lakewood was the name of the second 18-hole golf course at St. Andrews. So Lakewood was the original name of the second 18 holes at St. Andrews, and that gave this station its name. So we actually have two stations along this Elgin branch that are named after golf courses, St. Andrews, which we just left, and now Lakewood, which is the one right here. path closed. Now, as you can see, or maybe not, the Prairie path only continues for a short distance down this path and is closed off. This, in fact, is private property right here, and this is one of the few areas of the Prairie path that has been deprecated since the closure of the railway in 1957. This is private property from here to Prince Crossing Road, and we'll arrive there shortly, going a small detour. And this is owned by Wheaton Academy from here downwards. And we'll talk about the station and where that's at. But right now, this area is closed off, and there's an intersection with the Great Western Trail right here. You can see the Prairie path going off on that rise right there, and it dips down and comes back up to the Great Western Trail. And so we'll take this detour on the Great Western Trail to get to the Prince Crossing Station. But originally it would have come straight through here, and originally there would have been a bridge of the Great Western over the Chicago, Aurora and Elgin Railway, which would have come underneath the Great Western. We'll continue on our journey, but we'll be taking the Great Western, so we'll be going off of the original path of the Chicago, Aurora and Elgin Railway at this point, and we'll sync up with it back at the Prince Crossing Station, which is just a short distance from here. The 1.3 miles from Lakewood to Prince Crossing, which is right here. So it's one of the few extant stations remaining with the Chicago, Aurora and Elgin Railway. And as you can see, it's still in good shape. A brick structure. It was also an electrical substation like Clintonville. So like Clintonville, it would have converted and distributed the AC power that it received from Batavia, converted to 600 volts and sent it down the line to power the electric motors on the Chicago, Aurora and Elgin. This was a flag stop. Even though it was a large facility, it was a flag stop. And it's a little unusual in that it's located on the other side of the railway than most of the other stations are along this line. Not sure why that is, but that is something interesting about this particular facility. Today this facility is owned by the Wheaton Academy, which is just south of where the train station is located. And I'll go across the street to get a better look in a few moments. But this station was established in 1902. When it was established as Ingleton. Ingleton was a small community just west of here. It was later changed to Prince Crossing, and it was changed to Prince Crossing because there was a country home for convalescent children where the Wheaton Academy stands today, and that was just south of here. And one of its superintendents was a man by the name of Dr. Isaac Prince, and hence the name Prince Crossing. The crossing comes from the crossing of the railways that we just passed just a short distance in that direction. And from that point to here, the Prairie path, the trackway, has been deprecated, so that's 0.3 miles that's no longer accessible of the original trackway. And this is the only portion of the trackway that is not accessible on the Elgin Branch, at least. I believe there would have been a canopy over this portion of the platform, and the platform would have run along the building naturally. But this is all private property today, so this is not something that people should be wandering onto this to investigate this building. To my knowledge, it's used as storage by the Wheaton Academy. But the building has been restored. It was in a poor state of repair some years ago, and they've gone to some great lengths, the Prince Crossing Preservation Society, to bring it back into a reasonable state, as we see today. Prairie path extends this away through the foliage there, but just straight on. And there would have been a railway crossing across Prince Crossing Road here. So we've just come the 2.2 miles from Prince Crossing to the Geneva Road stop. The Geneva Road stop would have been located right here at Geneva Road by County Farm. And it would have been in the northwest corner of the intersection between County Farm and Geneva. And it would have been just, the small station would have been located just right over here, about where that truck is. So it would have been a small frame structure, perhaps 8x8, with a cinder platform that would have come through. And notice that the Prairie path has been now redirected off to the east that way, and you can see it across the road there where it connects up again. So it would have come straight across Geneva Road and right across County Farm as well, and there would have been a signal crossing there. So this would have been, again, we're on a single trackway and we're on the third rail here as well, as with most of the Elgin Branch. So the next stop will be at Geneva Junction, also known as Pleasant Hill, and that's just a wee bit up the road there. Alright, we've just come 0.7 miles to what was called Geneva Junction. It was started in 1902 as the Pleasant Hill stop, and that was named after the Pleasant Hill subdivision, which was just a little east of here. But it became Geneva Junction in 1909 when the Geneva branch of the Chicago Aurora and Elgin Railway was established. And this became the branching off point for the spur that ran off here. And if you just go in the trees a little bit here, you can see how the landscape, it's maybe hard to see on the camera, but you can see how the landscape falls away and starts heading off to the due west, whereas this portion of the Prairie Path is heading northwest. The Geneva branch forked off right from this point and started to head off to the directly west. And there was a 10 by 10 frame structure here, a station, a waiting station with a platform that would have served both the Geneva branch as well as the Elgin branch, which were on here. There was also a siding just to the north of the junction right along in here. It probably accommodated multiple tens of cars just along in here. And I should mention too, if you're trying to locate where this particular station was, it's about 3/10 of a mile from Pleasant Hill Road, due northwest along the Prairie Path. So if you're trying to find it, it's Pleasant Hill Road is in that direction, east, southeast. So about 3/10 of a mile up the pathway, and this is where it is. Although again, there's no landmarks to signify it. So the next stop is Jewell Road, and we'll be there shortly. So we've come the 0.6 miles from Geneva Junction to the Jewell Road stop. And the Jewell Road stop was located just north and west of the intersection of the trackway with Jewell Road. Jewell Road is just behind me here. And it would have been, the actual station would have been just about right in here. And it would have been a small wood structure with a slant roof, probably 6 by 6 in size, with a long cinder platform along in here. And again, it would have been located on the west side of the trackway. This would have been a single trackway with third rail for power. Jewell Road was named after local businessman and farmer Elias Jewell, who owned a portion of the property where the stop was located. And again, that seems to be the pattern of a local farmer who donates some property to the right-of-way as well as the station stop. The stop is named for them. Elias Jewell's farm was right along here along Jewell Road, and he's buried in a family plot just along Jewell Road here, just east of here. Heading up in this direction, when you hit Champion Forest Road, there is a family plot about 3 or 4 houses down on the right, and Elias Jewell and his family is buried there. We used to cut across Jewell Road here at a diagonal. There was a signal crossing right along here. Note the sign for Electric Avenue. Electric Avenue after the electric train that used to run here, and that Electric Avenue runs parallel to the trackway there. That was named probably with the building of the railway. We just have Lincoln Avenue, Wesley, and the Wheaton Station to go. So this presents a bit of a mystery. You can see some footings that were built for a bridge. There's a lower tier all along there, and there's an upper tier right up there. 3 apiece at the base and at the top. And there's corresponding footings over on this side as well. Three at the top and 3 at the bottom. And this presents a bit of a mystery. The street that intersects up above there is Prairie Street, and many years ago it was called Bridge Street. But I've never been able to find a map or an aerial photograph that indicates that a bridge was ever built here. Although there surely was an intention to build a bridge here. So that's a bit of a mystery. There was a bridge over the trackway that never seems to have been built. Perhaps one of our viewers can help us solve that mystery. So we've just arrived at Lincoln Station, Lincoln Avenue Station. This is Lincoln Avenue right along in here. And the station was located right over here in this corner, the northwest corner of the intersection between the trackway and Lincoln Avenue. This would have been a flag stop. And would have consisted of a wooden shelter with a cinder platform right along in this area right here. And this might be a signal base right here. And there's a lot of cover right now, but back in this foliage here in the winter months, there is another signal base back in here. that seems to have been rolled down the embankment. This flag stop would have had a cinder platform, as I mentioned. This would have been a single trackway, just like most of the Elgin, if not all of the Elgin path. And it would have been powered by a third rail. Walking up on the Wesley Street station. There's Wesley Street right here, and where Joyce is and my bike is, that was where, approximately within probably 10 feet, where the Wesley Street station was located. It was right on the embankment, went a little bit further along here, and because the bridge over this street didn't start till later, so there was an embankment of earth, and the station was right on the edge of the railway, and was a wooden structure about 8 by 8 with a hip roof, I believe, and a small wooden platform that would have been right about there, and then there would have been wooden steps that led down to Wesley Street. This was a flag stop established in 1902 and stopped service in 1957 along with the rest of the railway. We'll give you a closer look of the iron bridge, the original iron bridge. The steel construction of a bygone era, to be sure. And they've put 2x10 material down for the flooring. And this is a bridge over the current Metra line that runs out to Wheaton. So Wesley was the last stop before Wheaton Station, and that's where we're headed right now. Reached the corner of Liberty and Main, and the southwest corner of Liberty and Main is where the Wheaton Station once stood. Now it's a parking lot, as can be seen here, but there used to stand a substantial building about 100 feet long, made of brick. It was a full stop ticket agent. There was an electrical substation nearby. But we won't expound too much on this particular station because we'll talk more about this station when we go to the main line and do the main line trip into Maywood. But suffice to say, this was the hub of all of the branches that the Chicago, Aurora, and Elgin, the Aurora and Elgin had. They all came in, they all left from the station, they all came into the station, and nothing left of it today. It was a nice building though. So we've reached the end of our 16.5 mile trip from Elgin to downtown Wheaton. We saw all the stops along the way. We saw various other remnants and artifacts of the railway along the way as well. The train would take about 25 minutes to make this trip, so it traveled about 40 miles an hour, including stops on average, as it traversed this route. On bicycle, it takes about an hour and a half. If you're doing a lot of exploring, it's going to take considerably longer than that. We did a lot of exploring and filming today, so it took us quite a bit longer.
We had fun.
We had fun, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you learned a few things. Stay tuned for the next one. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you then.